Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and there's a lot of random stuff to discuss today, so I'm putting it all into one big Rico report. A lot of randomness. When I say a lot of randomness, I mean a lot of randomness. I am going to do a video soon breaking down all of the new hires to the coaching staff and guys getting promoted and what everybody's positions are and what coaching vacancies we still have holes for right now and who we may potentially bring in to fill those holes. I also have a video breaking down everything and catching you all the way up on everything going on with the team sale, Jeff Bezos, Dan Snyder being in debt, all of that type of stuff. That's for another time. Today I want to talk about basically everything else random that's going on. Also, the Commanders are meeting with a lot of players, and y'all know every year I do a full breakdown of all of the players that the Commanders are interested in. They met with them, they've talked highly about them, whatever, and y'all know I have the chart where y'all can always access the PDF and keep track of which players the Commanders are interested in, what rounds they're projected to go in, all of that type of stuff. So stay tuned for that coming out as well. But today we're talking about, first of all, the Washington Commanders are not talking to Derek Carr at the Combine. Derek Carr is supposed to talk to several teams around the NFL at the Combine. We're not one of them, so we're not interested. Also, big news, the Washington Commanders ranked dead last in free agency destinations. And we got to take a look at the exact grades, because out of 1,300 players that were surveyed, every team was graded on treatment of families, nutrition, weight room, strength staff, training room, training staff, and locker room. And we ended up dead last overall. And I want to also talk about each of those categories and what grade we received for each of those categories. I know, very random Rico report. Also, you got to talk about this Howell QB1 contradiction. Rivera saying one thing, then saying another, contradicting himself. Then Martin Mayhew talking about certain things about it. It's weird. And then also Chase Young went to go see a doctor. Also, some crazy Terry McLaurin stats and why you should really feel sorry for what he's had to deal with quarterback-wise since he's hit the NFL. Also, the Washington Commanders signed 2 more players to 1-year deals and even more beyond that. So many things to talk about, but before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately, and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Like I already told you, I have so many videos to come out with. Y'all know I'm heavy on draft content. I'm working on film sessions, more mock drafts, and then also updating the prospects list of all of the players that the Commanders are interested in, have met with, or whatever. And then make sure you stay tuned for everything free agency, all big news. Again, I'm working on a video catching y'all up on everything that's happened so far within like the past week of this whole Dan Snyder, Jeff Bezos, and the fact that we're only down to 2 real candidates for potentially buying the team. It's chaos everywhere, man. Make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the content. The Commanders are never boring. That's one thing about it. I know this intro is taking long, but as being a Commanders fan and a Georgia Bulldogs fan, I'm never bored. To be a Chiefs fan and a Bulldogs fan is the peak of football as far as greatness, but as far as entertainment, and there's always something new going on every day, is easily the Commanders and the Bulldogs. Because even beyond winning back-to-back championships as a Bulldogs fan, we always have some off-the-field issues or chaos going on, along with recruiting and everything. So as a fan of both, there's never a boring day for me, man. Y'all already know the Commander side of it. The Bulldogs are almost as chaotic on the college football side. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and get into this video. Let's get it. Alright, so let's start with this whole NFLPA survey and why we ranked dead last in top free agency report cards. Dan Graziano reported the article through ESPN. He said the NFL Players Association on Wednesday released what is described as a free agency reports cards for all 32 teams, presenting the results of a player survey on topics ranging from the quality of team facilities to treatment of players' families. The Players Union ranked all 32 teams against each other in hope of providing players with information that might be useful to them in free agency when deciding on new teams. So that's the scariest part about this. I mean, of course, if we ranked dead last and this is just an article that they were just putting out for fans, it would be one thing. But the fact that they're literally utilizing this chart and this ranking system to give to players before they decide where they want to go in free agency is scary, because maybe there's some players out there that were unaware of how scary the Commanders situation was. And again, the scariest part is that they're literally encouraging players to use this information when making their free agency destination choices this upcoming free agency period. I'm scared. I'm hoping that this was done before Eric Bieniemy was signed and all of the new changes that we've made since then. And hopefully after Dan Snyder sells the team, that would change all of these grades, but who knows? Continuing from the article, the top 3 ranked teams overall in order were the Minnesota Vikings number 1, Miami Dolphins number 2, and the Las Vegas Raiders number 3, which is really interesting. And then the last 3, the bottom 3, were the Los Angeles Chargers at 30th, the Arizona Cardinals 31st, and then the Washington Commanders 32nd, which is just inexcusable. First of all, I saw a stat, I think yesterday, that said that the Commanders made the least amount of money last year out of the entire NFL. And then this, with it being in the DMV, which is a very underrated market. I mean, granted, the sports teams outside of baseball and hockey haven't done much to really gloat about, but it's still a top 10 market in America and should be top 5 in my opinion. Even me being from Atlanta recognizes that the DMV area, at the very least DC, should at the very least be a top 10 market. So that's just inexcusable, and that's just a lot on Dan Snyder. That's a lot to blame on a lot of people, not only just Dan Snyder. So there's just no reason for any of that. NFLPA president JC Tretter said that roughly 1,300 players responded to the survey. Players will ask their opinions on their own teams only and received a 60-question survey covering 8 topics: treatment of player families, food service, nutrition, weight room, strength coaches, training staff, locker room, and team travel. Let's pause right there and take note of the fact that they said players were asked their opinions on their own teams only. So these terrible grades we have from these 1,300 players, these aren't from other players that have never touched the Commanders. These are from the William Jacksons, the Deron Paynes, and that's really what scares me the most, because players know, looking at these report cards, that this is coming from the players that were directly affected by the Commanders and are giving true and honest grades because they experienced it. So that's even scarier. It's not like a few guys, like when we do like the Pro Bowl All-Pro votes and like the players have an influence on it, and maybe they didn't watch all of the tape of every player, so they kind of guess it. You're not allowed to guess on this. Your opinion only counts when you were actually a Commanders player at some point in time recently. So that's really scary. So players are definitely going to use this information moving forward. And this is really drastic news, and we have a lot of things to change. I don't think people understand how much weight this could potentially hold against us. Definitely worried. They said, quote, basically one of the things we wanted to be able to present to players was, what are the decisions your team is making when giving you the option to do something for you, unquote. Tretter told a group of reporters Wednesday during the NFL Combine. Some of the more surprising survey results included the revelation that 3 of the league's 32 teams don't keep their cafeterias open for dinner. One of the teams, the Bengals, doesn't provide nutritional supplements. 7 of the teams don't offer first-class travel for their players. A lot of interesting things are coming out with this survey. This is a really good and important survey for player empowerment especially. But it just really sucks as a Commanders fan to see that you're dead last on the survey. I know the rest of the NFC East is laughing at us, man. I mean, it's really bad, man. And when you go to the website from the NFLPA.com, you can literally click on the Commanders and it gives you the whole overview of everything. We tied for last for treatment of families with an F. We were 18th in food and nutrition with a D+. We were 22nd in weight room with a C+, which is interesting. We were first with strength coaches with an A+. We were F-, tied for last for training room. We were 31st with a D grade for training staff. We were 32nd dead last in locker room with an F-, and 32nd dead last in team travel with an F-. And again, I feel like Dan Snyder has a hand in a lot of these things. In him selling the team, a lot of this is going to change and become way better, I'm assuming. I mean, first of all, it can only go up when you're at the bottom anyway. So there's a lot of changes that need to be made. And you can literally click on the Commanders and they do a whole overview, not only the breakdown of the key categories like I just gave you. And again, we ranked 32nd out of 32 teams. I'm going to take a look at the rest of the NFC East before we get up out of here. But their overview for us on the official website by the people that did this survey. The Washington Commanders are ranked 32nd last in our team guide. Besides the strength coaches who received great feedback and grades as one of the best groups in the league, the rest of the club's operations and facilities were rated by players' respondents at the bottom of every single category. The locker room does not have confidence that the club Dan Snyder is willing to invest to upgrade the facilities, as player responses rank him 31st in this category. So that's a direct correlation to Dan Snyder, and when he sells the team, that should definitely improve there. So thank goodness for that. Players have significantly more concerns with each area of the facility than the player respondents on any other team. For example, they were the team most consistently identified as having an understaffed training room. That's not good. Players also reported that they have some of the smallest hot and cold tubs for players' recovery, and only 35% of players feel like they have enough personal space in the locker room. Finally, there are complaints of a lack of warm water and issues with poor drainage in the showers. So yeah, new ownership comes in, especially somebody like Jeff Bezos, who has the longest bankroll out of any owner, out of any human. He could come through and fix literally all of that. It may not be immediately. It may not be 2023 if he buys the team in March. It may take till 2024 beyond that, or maybe even having to wait for the new stadium. But either way, Jeff Bezos could come in, or whoever the new owner may be, and fix literally all of that. And I'm hoping they do. Going back to the article, overall 22% of players felt like they have enough space on team flights. That's not good. Only slightly above 1/5 of the players. The Commanders are one of 6 teams in the NFL that make a segment of their players have roommates before games, and one of 7 in teams in the NFL that do not offer their players first class seats. That is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Again, Jeff Bezos comes in and can fix all of that because money is not a problem with him. Remember, Dan Snyder is in debt. I'm gonna talk about that and my whole catching you up to what's currently going on with the team sale, Dan Snyder, Jeff Bezos, and all of that. But he's literally in debt. So he literally couldn't change these things even if he wanted to, and I doubt he even cares enough, especially now that he's about to potentially sell the team. Jeff Bezos can come in and fix all of these problems as to why we're ranked dead last in most of these things. Just to look at the rest of the NFC East real quick, the Cowboys are ranked 5th out of 32 teams. That's not good for us. The Eagles are ranked 14th out of 32 teams. That's not good for us either. And then the Giants are ranked 8th. So we have the Cowboys at 5, the Giants at 8, and then the Eagles at 14th, and then us dead last 32nd. But hey man, we have the second most cap space out of the NFC East. Technically we will have the most because we just franchise tagged Deron Payne, which took us from the most in the NFC East to the second most. But the Giants are struggling to pay both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, so they're gonna fall far down the list anyway. So you could basically say we have the most cap space out of the NFC East, but we're also the worst free agency destination, at least until Dan Snyder sells the team. So we'll see if money talks, man. If players see those report cards and be like, well, they're the team that can give me the most money, I'll just have to put up with it, things could get really interesting. Oh wow, and I just got a notification about why the Cardinals got such a bad grade and why they're 31st to our 32nd. They have a policy of deducting dinner from players' paychecks should players want to get food from the facility. What kind of stuff is that? Yo, no, this survey is insane. More and more news is about to come out left and right. I just want to focus on the Commanders, but that's crazy because the fact that we're beneath them, and that's a policy that they have. But again, most of it is Dan Snyder. When he sells the team, we should be able to fix a lot of that. Moving on, the Commanders defensive end Chase Young saw Dr. James Andrews in recent weeks for a checkup and got very positive feedback about his recovery from knee surgery, per source. A good and necessary step as the Commanders decide on his 5th-year contract option. And remember, the deadline to give him his 5th-year option to pick it up is May 1st. So we have a lot of time between now and then. We'll see what happens, but it sounds like at the very least health-wise and physically, Chase Young should be good to go to participate in OTAs, mini camps, training camp, all of that type of stuff. So I'm excited about that. Also, the Commanders have signed linebacker Milo Eifler and cornerback Rashad Wildgoose to a 1-year contract extension each for the 2023 NFL season. So far, everybody we've signed, including tagging Deron Payne, have all just gotten 1-year deals. David Mayo, the linebacker, Jonathan Williams, the running back, and now linebacker Milo Eifler and cornerback Rashad Wildgoose, all just cheap little 1-year deals. And now we officially have 4 linebackers currently on our roster: Jamin Davis, Milo Eifler, David Mayo, and Dejon Harris. That's it. Those are all of our linebackers currently on roster. Again, Khaleke Hudson is a restricted free agent, so it's obvious we're going to bring him back for very cheap. But as of right now, Jamin Davis is the only linebacker out of all of those guys that I'm comfortable with throwing out there on defense and not just special teams. Even though Khaleke Hudson showed a lot of promise against the Cowboys, still got some things to do there. Now, moving on to this whole Sam Howell QB thing, I'm not going to stay on it too long, but I just think it's really interesting how contradictory they've been been about this, because I mean, on one side they say Sam Howell is our franchise starting quarterback, and then they started to say, okay, he's our starting quarterback, but he's gonna have to earn it. We're not just gonna hand him the job. Respectfully so, I like that. I feel like that's a great idea. And then recently, a few days ago, JP Finley spoke with Ron Rivera, and then he said that the Commanders coach is optimistic about Sam Howell as QB1, and added that they'd like to get Taylor Heineke or another veteran quarterback as a backup to him. And I agree with that. I mean, sorta. We'll get to the backup quarterback part, but Sam Howell being our QB1, entering training camp and having to earn it, I feel like is a great idea. Don't let him get complacent and lazy. Don't let him get comfortable as if he's just already earned the job no matter what happens. No, he needs to go out there and ball out. He's in the lead, but it's not like it's already been handed to him. But then things got really weird recently, just a couple of days ago, since all of the coaches has been around the combine and things like that. And then it was reported, according to officials, Washington intends to explore other quarterbacks, and Howell has to win the eventual process, which is not a guarantee. Which makes a lot of sense, but it sounds a little bit different from Sam Howell is our QB1 going into training camp and it's his job to lose, versus now he has to go out there and win it. Again, I agree. I want him to go out there and earn it. But it's just weird how they go from sounding like we're going to put our whole team into Sam Howell's hands. When we're looking for an offensive coordinator, we're asking them in the interview, how do you plan to work around Sam Howell being the starting quarterback next year? And then they come out a few days after that and talk like this. It's a little weird. And then Martin Mayhew said today with his press conference, as far as Sam Howell goes, quote, Sam will have every opportunity to win that starting job. Mayhew says Howell was impressive, but it was a small sample size. Sam has the skills to start in this league, and he also talked about how Sam sitting was very helpful to his development. Again, I agree, but I just feel like the message that they're giving now, they should have been given that from the start. He's technically QB1 right now, but you better go out there and not allow somebody else to take your job. Now, for me, completely agree with Tay and Todd podcast. I was literally thinking this, been thinking this for a while, but the way that they worded it, perfect. Make sure y'all go follow them on Twitter and check out their YouTubes as well. The ideal backup in Washington, whoever is least likely to win games. I agree. If Howell gets hurt or completely flames out, all eyes need to be on Caleb Williams and Drake May. I agree. Winning 7 games with Teddy Bridgewater is pointless. In my opinion, it is as well. Granted, it may get Ron Rivera fired, and I do like Ron Rivera, but this winning 7-8 games this season is not helping us at all. It's getting us absolutely nowhere. Some people like to argue, well, if you tank, players are not going to want to come play for you. Well, we're dead last in free agency destinations, already winning 7-8 games a season. How much worse could it be to go ahead, if Sam Howell doesn't work out, go ahead and do what you got to do to get Caleb Williams and Drake May. Now you have that franchise quarterback, and a franchise quarterback, I don't care what you tell him. I don't care what you say. Having a potential elite quarterback that a team can believe in carries a lot of weight in free agency destination choices. It would for me. I'm looking around, do I want to play for Pat Mahomes or do I want to play for Davis Mills? Granted, even if Davis Mills is on a team where the facilities are better, they have better travel and things like that, Pat Mahomes gives me the better chance of winning the Super Bowl. I'm going to take my chances real quick, and we'll worry about the facilities and everything after that. Because the ultimate goal, to at the very least most players, maybe not all, is to win a Super Bowl. And if you have that franchise quarterback that guys can believe in, and then plus anyway, I feel like when Dan Snyder sells the team and potentially more than likely Jeff Bezos takes over, a lot of the reasons why we have terrible grades will be fixed just by Jeff Bezos being richer and caring more. But we'll see. Moving on, I think one really interesting thing that Ron Rivera said yesterday when he was interviewed at the Combine, he talked about a lot of things. Eric Bieniemy's offense, I put the whole video out. You can check that out. Everything I'm talking about right now is included in that video. But one notable thing was that he said he likes the tight end group. And I know I'm not the only one that heard that and like had like a DJ scratch in my head. Like, wait a minute, whoa. You like the tight end group? Like, he said it with confidence, like they don't plan on necessarily adding a guy in free agency or even somewhere in the draft, like in the higher rounds. They may add one later in the draft. It sounded like the way he was talking. Maybe he was lying, I don't know, but I love the potential of our tight end group. But the confidence, the floor, nah. I love the ceiling, but the floor of our tight end group is not good right now at all. Logan Thomas, first of all, being able to stay healthy, and then even when he was healthy, he wasn't very good out there. We still got to see Colt Turner become himself? I love Armani Rogers, but we still got to see if not only can he become a great player, but does Eric Bieniemy know how to utilize a guy like that? Can Sam Howell get the ball to a guy like that? And then Curtis Hodges has a lot of potential as well. But again, really nobody on this team has any sort of a floor except for John Bates. And then that's a guy that doesn't give you much of a ceiling. So this tight end group, I don't know how you can necessarily love it right now. You can like the potential of it, but to just love it flat out like it has a high floor, don't see it, Ron Rivera. Definitely just wanted to get that out the way. Also, man, we got to talk about freeing Terry McLaurin, bruh. And I think Sam Howell may actually be the guy for us. But look at these stats, man. The Commanders' starting quarterback since 2018. Poor Terry McLaurin, bruh. And these are just records. These are the records. Just take a good look at that. Soak it in. Look at the records. Sam Howell, the only undefeated one. Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke, and Alex Smith, the only ones with positive records. And poor Ryan Fitzpatrick, because he only played less than a half, so that's kind of funny. But just take in the records. And now let's look at the stat that's even worse. Terry McLaurin has tried to catch passes from these QBs in his 4-year career in DC so far. Yeah, I'm just thinking about how selfish Dan Snyder is. I mean, the fact that he paid $4.5 million to have his logo on the side of a private jet, and then Washington players are saying that they're running out of warm water and there isn't enough hot and cold tub space, and understaffed on trainers, and then the cafeteria, the weight room, and the lockers are undersized. That is just so selfish, man. We gotta, please, Jeff Bezos, come save us, man. But yeah, man, Terry McLaurin, 201 passes from Taylor Heineke, 98 from Dwayne Haskins, 52 from Alex Smith, 43 from Carson Wentz, 41 from Case Keenum, 31 from Kyle Allen, 7 from Colt McCoy, 6 from Sam Howell, and 4 for Garrett Gilbert. And per throw, Sam Howell has easily been the best for Terry McLaurin. It's not even close. Per throw, Taylor Heineke has gotten the most success out of him, but of course, he's thrown the ball towards Terry McLaurin more than double everybody else. But shouts out to Taylor Heineke, though. And then lastly, I know a lot of people noticed that Marcus Mariota got released by the Falcons, and I just wanted to know y'all opinions on potentially bringing him in as a backup the way that he was killing us for the Falcons last season, where we just could not stop the read option with him. Would you like him as a backup for Sam Howell? Again, I'm even afraid of bringing in a Marcus Mariota because, again, if Sam Howell doesn't work out for any reason, injuries or whatever, I think we do need to go all in on Caleb Williams and Drake May, but that's just me. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like in this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. As always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this Commanders Rico report, especially all of the Dan Snyder stuff and the free agency report cards, all of that. So let me know. Catch y'all later. I'm out.